Hello, in this video, I would like to talk about a couple polls Pew Research just conducted and released concerning foreign policy and how the United States is seen by many of the world's major countries. Now, there were many polls that were released recently through Pew Research Group. However, I would like to focus on just two of them because the two that I think are most important give you an historical overview of how opinions change over many years. The other polls do not seem to have this historical context, so in my view, they are less reliable. One poll I would like to cover was conducted in the spring of 2021, and this poll looked at the last three US presidents and how they were seen in relation to other countries. Now, having an established foreign policy relationship with other countries, specifically powerful Western European countries, is very important. Now, if we look at this poll, it begins in the Bush presidency and extends all the way through the Trump presidency. And there are a few insights we can glean from this. Now, this poll looked at the countries of France, UK, Germany, and Spain, and how they viewed the United States presidential administration at the time. In this poll, we see that both President Bush and President Trump had fairly low ratings compared to the Obama administration. Now, the Bush administration had an approval rating which averaged somewhere in the mid-30s throughout its entire administration in terms of how these four European countries viewed that administration. Now, if we take a look at the Trump administration and how they fared, they averaged somewhere in the mid 20%. Now, this is not good. This is especially not good when we compare the Obama administration ratings, which averaged around 75% favorability for his entire term in office. Now, how can we explain these vastly different numbers? The way I like to look at it is that each presidency is often faced with an international crisis, and how each presidency responds to that crisis is going to dictate how they are seen on the world stage. If we look at the Bush administration, for example, that time period is marked by the war on terror, which is largely seen now as something that was majorly mishandled. If we look at the Trump administration, we see that their mishandling of the COVID pandemic really marred them in the eyes of the international community. Now, conversely, if we look at the Obama administration, they were faced with an economic crisis on an international scale. And although there are definitely critics to how the economic situation was handled, largely it was handled well. And because it was handled well, the global economy was able to rebound, just maybe not as quickly as some people had hoped. However, it does show that when faced with a crisis, if swift, proper actions are taken, world leaders can still have favorable relations and support from other international countries. Now, if we look at one last poll, this poll is quite interesting. This poll looks at the last 2 decades, that is 20 years, of how the international communities of Western Europe see the activities of the United States as they relate to how much the United States takes the concerns of Western Europe into account when governing. Now, this poll is quite enlightening. This poll is actually quite sad because it shows that at least the countries of France, Germany, Spain, and the UK do not see the United States as taking their concerns seriously. And this is not the way foreign policy should be conducted. In this poll, if we just take the average of the 20 years, we see that only 40% of the respondents from these countries feel that the United States takes their country's concerns seriously. Now, if we look at the UK and Germany, they tend to give the United States higher marks, while Spain and France give the United States lower marks. Now, I just thought these two polls were interesting to contemplate, as I do feel they get at the heart of much larger issues, and therefore are quite interesting.